RAC Tech presents Paul Thede's Mental Edge. Brought to you by AXO, we mean protection. Bel-Ray, Total Performance Lubricants. Poison Power Reeds, two-stroke induction technology you can depend on. Extreme, because life's too short not to be. RAC Tech was started in 1985 by Paul Thede. Paul was voted in 1991 as one of Motocross Action's top 25 most influential people in motocross.
This video is about winning, what it takes to win, and what stops you from winning. This isn't a feel-good tape. I'm not going to pump you up and tell you how easy this is. It's not. Everyone has different obstacles, and some are tougher than others. So what's holding you back, keeping you from achieving your goals? Let's find out.
There are two questions I'd like to ask. First, what's the difference between you and the top rider in the world through one turn or for one lap? Is it physical conditioning? No. It's only what he knows. He knows how to do it, and he knows what it's supposed to feel like. In other words, it's his knowledge of technique and his knowledge of sensations. Think about it. The biggest thing that keeps you from becoming a winner is not learning. The second question is, how many times have you gone practicing with no specific goal in mind, expecting to go faster, then realizing afterwards that you didn't learn anything? Sure, you may be in better shape, but the fact is, you may have only practiced bad technique. Now, what if you could learn just one new thing every time? How much sooner could you achieve your goals? The first thing you need to do then is learn how to learn.
Before you can learn, it's important to find out what keeps you from learning. The first thing is fear. It's okay to be afraid. Everyone has fear, even the top riders. Do you really think the top riders have no fear?
They've just learned not to be afraid of the same things you are. In fact, when they were your speed, they were afraid of exactly the same things you are. If you're not afraid, you're not alive. Or you're not gonna be. It's that simple. It's what you do with the fear that counts. You either recognize it and use the energy it creates, or you let it stop you. Think about it. Fear is good. Imagine how dangerous the learning process would be without fear. I've just talked about physical fear. Fear of failure can stop you just as easily. In competition, you won't always look good. Are you afraid of looking bad? Do you know riders that won't race if they don't think they'll win? Some riders won't move up in class just so they won't lose.
The second thing that stops you from learning is having a closed mind. In other words, thinking you already know. As soon as you think you know, learning has stopped. Makes sense. Why would you spend time trying to learn something you think you already know? But how much do you really know? There's an old saying that goes like this: a wise man can learn from even a fool. A fool can learn from no one. Think about it. A top pro can still learn from riders with less skill. In fact, his ability to learn is why he's a top pro. So the first thing that stopped you from learning is fear. And the second thing is having a closed mind. What's next? Well, the third thing is having a negative attitude. Attitude is everything. If you're looking for excuses, you'll find them. I got a bad start. My bike doesn't handle. My bike is slow. I didn't feel good. If only I had what he has, then I'd be a winner.
Sorry, no excuses. Take responsibility for your results. Your situation, whatever it is your situation. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to let that stop you? If your bike is too slow or it doesn't handle, send it to RAC Tech. Ask for Paul and tell him I sent you. But if you're too slow, make you faster.
Now that we've established what keeps you from learning, let's discuss our goal. When you physically train, you condition your body. When you learn, you condition your mind. The end result is confidence. That's our goal.
It's very hard to recognize when you're in poor mental condition, but it's easy to recognize when you're in poor physical condition. And physical conditioning is important. Take the top riders, for example. They're some of the best conditioned athletes in the world. If you're not in good physical condition, you won't be able to charge at the end of the race, and you may even get passed by a rider of lesser skill that has better endurance. Strength and stamina and how they're achieved, though very important, won't be discussed in this video.
What will be discussed is the most important part, conditioning the mind. We'll break this into two parts, mental conditioning and sensation conditioning.
We'll talk about mental conditioning first. Why is mental conditioning important? Mental conditioning makes you mentally tough. If you're mentally tough, you have a positive attitude, and you'll do whatever it takes to recognize and eliminate your weaknesses. If you're mentally tough, you'll be able to learn from even the worst situation and become stronger. You won't be psyched out, and you won't let fear control you. Part of mental conditioning is improving your forward concentration. Are you faster when you're leading or chasing? Most riders are faster when they're chasing. So what is the difference? Attitude. You feel different. Every turn is an opportunity. And this is important. Every turn is an opportunity to either gain time or lose time. How do you feel about the next turn? Are you just going to make it through without losing time? Or are you going to shred it? If you're going to shred it, you have forward concentration. Most riders have rearward concentration when leading. So the answer is simply to recognize your attitude and change it. Gain time in every turn. The difference between forward and rearward concentration is the difference between positive and negative attitude. Attitude is everything. With a negative attitude, you blame things for your failure. The front end washed out. I got a bad start. That guy knocked me down. And so on. A failure is not a failure if you can learn from it. For example, if you get the hole shot and get passed, you can look at it as negative or positive. You can see yourself as a failure, or you can learn from a rider that's going faster than you. The most important point is, your attitude is your choice. If someone's going faster, who says he's better? You don't have to immediately be the fastest, but you do have to learn from the events around you and correct for them. If you choose to have a positive attitude, you'll become mentally tough, and you'll be able to see the opportunity in any situation.
Okay, we're talking about mental conditioning, and we've looked at positive attitude. Now let's look at a specific technique known as mental imaging. This technique will help you become mentally tough, and has helped many people become successful. Remember, confidence is our goal.
When you're confident, you see yourself winning. You've allowed yourself to win. It also works the other way. If you don't see success, you see failure. So how do you use mental imaging? Before you ride, whether practicing or racing, allow yourself a few minutes alone for imaging. Take a lap in your mind. Picture getting the start, accelerating hard and straight, making each gear shift perfectly, diving into the first turn in the lead. Continue riding the track, looking forward for lines, feeling the sensations. See yourself winning. That's all there is to imaging. See success. When you actually do win, take credit for it. Take credit for your accomplishments. Don't make excuses for your competition. You won. If you didn't win, did you fail? Now that's up to you. Remember, a failure is not a failure if you learn. Your greatest failure can become the source of your greatest success. It's up to you. If a failure allows you to recognize your weakness, you've taken the first step to correct it. Think about it. If you don't see anything wrong, how do you fix it?
The second part of conditioning the mind is a concept I call sensation conditioning. Now remember, the difference between you and the top rider for one lap is not physical. It's what he knows is correct and what he feels is correct.
Sensation conditioning is the knowledge of what feels correct. Now this is important. If you were to go through a turn at his speed, it would feel strange. But once you've experienced it, you'll know what correct feels like. Sensation conditioning is the most difficult type of conditioning because the only way to increase your level is to experience it. So how do you raise your level of sensation conditioning? I'll give you a few techniques. One way is to follow a better rider at his speed, for example, over double jumps. Double jumps are very scary, especially until you've done them. Once you've done them, you know what it's supposed to feel like, and it feels right when you do it again. Now, I'm not saying go out and follow some fast guy over the monster doubles. You got to use your head. But if you're ready, keying off someone that's doing them is a good way to learn. Another good way to increase your level of sensation conditioning is to practice with a better rider that's willing to work with you. You follow the faster rider. He starts out at a speed you're comfortable with, then slowly increases his speed. You match the speed as it increases. Imitate him. Copy his lines, his body position, his style, his throttle position, his every movement. If he pulls away, have him slow down until you're comfortable again. You need to work together. These are two ways to sensation condition with other riders. This doesn't mean you can't do it on your own. As you learn good technique, you can intelligently push your own limits of sensation conditioning. Using correct technique allows you to feel good at higher speeds. Once you've felt a sensation, you'll be able to recall it. So that's what it's supposed to feel like.
Okay, so now you're a new person. You've totally conditioned your mind. Let's talk about psych. Most riders won't fight as hard to pass a better rider. And they won't fight as hard to keep a better rider behind them. Will you? But who is a better rider? That has something to do with who you think is a better rider.
He may be someone who passes you every week. He may be someone who hole shots you every week. He may be someone who has a better sponsorship than you. What is psych? In simple terms, psych is mental competition. At the top level, all the riders have good fundamentals, but who wins has a lot to do with what they think of themselves and of each other. In other words, their confidence. Recall a rider that consistently hole shots. You may be psyched by him. Do you pick your starting spot in relation to where he is on the line? When you get bumped in a turn by the rider behind you, how do you feel? In enduros, who are you going to let lead your minute, and why? During practice, you pull in behind your competition, pass him and pull away. What's that going to do to his head? On the other hand, he may pull over and let you by, then pass you and pull away. What's that going to do to your head? When you look down the starting line, how do you feel about the other riders? Are you psyched? Next time you're at a supercross, watch practice. There's a lot of psych that goes on. Recently, a top RAC Tech rider cleared a seemingly impossible step-up jump in the first of 2 practices. He gave away an opportunity to use psych. Had he waited until the last practice, his competition would have been sitting on the starting line thinking more about that jump than winning the race. Anything that makes one rider think he's better or worse than another rider is psych. It helps just to recognize when someone's trying to psych you and when you're psyching yourself. So, are you psyched? If not, why not? It's because you're confident. If you're confident, you can't be psyched. So confidence is the answer, and getting confidence is what this video is all about.
We've discussed what keeps you from learning. We've talked about conditioning the mind, both with mental and sensation conditioning. And we've talked about psych. What's next? Learning is next.
Most of you think that the only way to get faster is to scare yourself. You have to brake later into turns, you have to accelerate sooner, and so on. Therefore, if you're not improving, it's because you're a wimp. How limiting is that thought? Until you have more nerve, you can't go any faster, and you're already on the edge of crashing. So how do you go faster? There are hundreds of ways. Haven't we established that the only difference between you and the top rider in the world for 1 lap is only what he knows, both with sensations and knowledge of technique? The key to going faster is learning. Learning occurs when vague feelings are turned into concrete thoughts. You need to know what to work on to improve. Think back on how many times you've gone out practicing with no specific goal in mind, expecting to go faster and realizing at the end of the day or the end of the week you're no faster. For a future champion, that's totally unacceptable. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? And then ask yourself what your competition learned today. Are you willing to give away a day to your competition? Kind of makes this learning thing a little more urgent, doesn't it? Okay, learning is the key. So how do we learn? Self-evaluation is very important. You'll use a couple of techniques for self-evaluation. The first is video, and you'll use video two ways. You need to know what you're supposed to look like, and you need to know what you do look like. So you watch video of top riders, and you watch video of yourself. Whenever you go out practicing or racing, you and your friends need to beg, borrow, or buy a video camera. Remember, you need to know what you look like. Now, can you afford a video camera? The question is, can you afford not to? Between only a small handful of friends, you'll be able to come up with one. When you have one, take turns videoing each other. Work on specific areas that are difficult for you. When it's time to review the tape, be as critical as you can. You'll be learning. Wouldn't it be great if a father-son team was really a team? Or a rider-mechanic team was really a team? The father can video and the son can evaluate himself. It'll take tons of pressure off the relationship. Video is the first learning technique we've discussed, and it's a great tool. We're lucky we're living now. It wasn't too long ago it was nearly impossible to get a video camera.
So what's next? Learning technique number 2 is the use of a logbook. You must look at yourself every time you ride, practicing and racing. Evaluate yourself physically, mentally, and technically.
This is the heart of self-evaluation, and that's why I've developed the self-evaluation logbook. Race Tech riders use it to critique themselves after each race, as well as on practice days. Then they're able to practice with specific goals in mind. These Race Tech logbooks are now available to you. I'll give you more information on how to get them at the end of the tape. How else can you learn? Other riders can help. As I suggested during sensation conditioning, riding with a better rider can be very helpful. He can even be helpful if he's not willing to work with you, just by setting an example. So you got your video and you got your Race Tech logbook, and you learn with better riders. Another way to learn is to teach. Teaching another rider the fundamentals and the finer points is one of the best ways to review them yourself. And watching someone improve because you helped is pretty cool too. These are all great techniques, but they're not the only ones. Take it upon yourself to learn whenever and wherever you can. You can learn from magazines like Dirt Rider, Dirt Bike, and Motocross Action. They all have riding tips and hundreds of pictures. Riding schools are available all over the country. You can get videos through a lot of motorcycle dealers as well as mail-order video companies. And don't forget television. Use your VCR when something important is on.
Well, those learning techniques should keep you busy for a while. But let's talk about practice anyway. There are 2 types of practice, race day and weekday, and they're very different.
On race day, get on the track as soon as you can, regardless of conditions. Get loose and relaxed as soon as possible. Search for new lines as you ride. Be aware of the track as it changes. Build up your speed safely. The speed you're comfortable with at the end of practice has a lot to do with your race speed. Practice starts. Be aware of the psych game. Have a positive attitude and watch as many practices as you can. Remember the wise man? He can learn from even a fool. Be the wise man. On weekdays, use your Race Tech logbook. Focus on specific goals. Think quality, not quantity. Don't ride exhausted. You'll be wasting your time practicing bad technique. Practice good technique until it's second nature, and then practice it some more. Remember to practice starts. Work on one section at a time, not the whole track. It's nearly impossible to learn new technique when you're at race speed, so don't spend all your time racing with friends. One practice technique I like to use helps your width of vision as it keeps practice fun. Simply, don't use the same line twice. Choose a different line every lap. Then as you ride, you'll be looking for new lines. See how many different ways you can go through the turns. It'll make your old burnout practice track a blast. You'll be amazed. After practice, use your RAC Tech logbook. Write down what you've learned and what you need to work on next. Are you willing to practice without any specific goals? Use your learning techniques, especially the logbook, to focus on your goals. Good practice makes perfect. Learn every time you ride.
Let's wrap this up. What's the key? The key is learning. Learn how to learn. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? Remember, you are responsible for your results. Constantly evaluate yourself with video and your RAC Tech logbook. Make it a point to recognize your weaknesses and then work to turn them into strengths. Watch this video over and over. Use the pause button. Write down on paper all the important points. The key is learning. The end result is confidence. This video applies to all types of competition, and it applies to life itself. Take charge of your life. Look on life with a positive attitude. Have an open mind and learn. Accept fear and use its energy. And be happy, never satisfied. Always look for more. Now, will this video make a difference, or will it just collect dust? The question is, are you going to follow through? Now, that's up to you. So good luck, and most of all, have fun. If you ever have any questions, please give me a call at RAC Tech. And thanks for watching.
To get your RAC Tech logbooks, write us at 3227 Producer Way, number 127, Pomona, California, 91768.